Hello, I'm Dr. Virtual and welcome back to my edition of Media News. And in today's news, Joker 2 announcements. A little brief summary of my thoughts on the first Joker movie. I absolutely thought it was a cinematic piece of brilliance. A fantastic art piece in cinema history. The highest grossing R-rated movie, very much well earned. Now, in talks of actually having a sequel to it, I'm open-minded to seeing where it could go, but at the moment in time I didn't think it was really necessary. But that doesn't mean to say that's my perspective on it as a whole. Let's have a look, shall we, at what we may read together. Okay, so this is the public source from Screen Rant, and it says, Theory, Joker 2 will introduce the real DC villain. This was probably one of those, the Joker is too old and the Batman hasn't even been born just yet kind of things. So it's probably the age. The age as in that if they're going to produce the real Joker, this might have been an inspiration for someone to actually become the new Joker. Although Joker introduced Arthur Fleck, Joaquin Phoenix and his newfound evil persona, he might not be the real clown prince of crime. Now here is where I actually take a little bit of an issue with this. If this was a standalone movie that's not part of the DC extended universe, the Arthur Fleck Joker would have been an absolutely brilliant one standalone movie for another Warner Bros. DC film. But if this was actually part of the DC extended universe anyway, then calling it a standalone movie would have led us all in a different way of thinking that this was just going to be a one-off Joker movie, which is what I actually thought it was. So if they're going to go down this route with the extended universe, then I can see that happening with a sequel as to maybe Arthur Fleck is not the real Joker, but he was just the first clown to actually draw Gotham to be on its knees and inspire someone to actually become the clown prince of crime. Instead, making way for Joker 2 to introduce the real DC villain. Todd Phillips' version of Batman's arch nemesis, or arch enemy, offered a new origin story for the character in a film that was built as a standalone one-off. But nothing is set in stone in the film industry, especially after Joker's huge box office success, which is a big motivation for the studio to move forward with a sequel. Again, so if this actually ties in with the new Batman, because it's been reported that Ben Affleck has actually hanged up the cowl, so we're going to move on to a new Batman because there's going to be a new Batman movie. That guy from Twilight is actually playing Batman this time. So again, if this sort of ties in with the first Joker being its own standalone, that would have been perfect. But this is sort of going to confuse the fan base unless it's actually done in a way where it's going to be drawn into the DC extended universe, or it doesn't have to. Maybe it's its own story. It could work with that way as well. That would be cool. Joker followed failed stand-up comedian Arthur Fleck, who turned to a life of crime in Gotham City after being constantly neglected by society. Joker had a big impact even before it was released, many theatres taking special measures to ensure all their visitors were safe, and some even choosing to not screen the film at all. Viewers witness Arthur's conversion into a crime icon, but there's still more to explore and answer about the character, especially because that might not have been the actual Joker. You see, for all intents and purposes of it actually being a standalone movie, it doesn't matter. Joaquin Phoenix portrayed a really good portrayal for his version as the Joker, but now, as we can see for this, it has to be the Joker now, because there might be someone else who's going to take up that mantle in a future movie, which is probably going to be a sequel. Joker 2 can introduce the true character. Working off of inspirational writing, that could work. So my final thoughts, that I would have preferred if this Joker movie would have just been a standalone, its own piece, because usually sometimes with sequels in certain movies, that's where things start to get a bit shoddy, things start to feel out of place, or it wasn't as good as the first one kind of thing, That's where movies just typically go downhill and get ruined. I mean, just look at a few movie franchises, without me having to mention any, that's actually been ruined due to repeated movies simply because the first one did so well. In any case, I'm Dr. Virtual. What do you think about the Joker 2 movie announcements or sort of speculations and things like that, or even if it's go ahead? What do you think of it? Do you think that we should have another Joker movie? Do you think that we shouldn't? Do you think we should just stay with the first one and just loved it for what it is? How do you feel, fellow gaming minions? Let me know in the comment section below or in the video response if you prefer. I'm Dr. Virtual, the Gaming Doctor, and may retro gaming live on.